Real Madrid made Rodri an offer that Spanish radio described as irrechazable. The word means impossible to refuse. Florentino Perez was personally involved in the negotiations. Jose Mourinho signed off on the recruitment. 4 years of advanced contract talks, a salary that would make Rodri one of the highest-paid players in Real Madrid's history. The club put everything on the table, and Rodri refused it. He chose Barcelona instead. In doing so, he handed Jose Mourinho the most embarrassing transfer defeat of his return to Real Madrid before a single competitive match has been played. But the reason he said no is the detail that changes everything. To understand why this matters beyond one transfer, you need to understand what Rodri represents right now. He won the 2026 World Cup with Spain. He was named the tournament's best player. He played every single minute of Spain's 8 World Cup matches without being substituted. A feat made extraordinary by the fact that he had suffered a cruciate ligament injury the previous season that many believed would end his career at the highest level. He returned from that injury, led Spain to the World Cup, controlled every match they played, and won the Golden Ball. He holds the Ballon d'Or, and he had every major club in the world willing to pay whatever it took to sign him. He chose Barcelona for 50 million euros, a fee Manchester City considered a discount and Barcelona considered a bargain. But the story of how it happened is more interesting than the numbers. Because the reason Rodri chose Barcelona over Real Madrid tells you something about both clubs that no transfer announcement will ever say directly. For weeks, the story was straightforward. Real Madrid were the front runners. Mourinho wanted him. Florentino Perez wanted him. The salary offer was extraordinary. Spanish sources described it in language they almost never use for any transfer, let alone one involving a midfielder age 30. Negotiations were well advanced. People inside Real Madrid believed the deal was close to done. And then Rodri had a conversation with Hansi at Barcelona, and everything changed in less than 24 hours. But what caused that change is the detail nobody is talking about loudly enough. According to multiple Spanish sources, Rodri came away from his talks with Real Madrid with a specific concern. He got the impression that Mourinho was not fully sold on signing him. Whatever was said in those negotiations, whatever signal Mourinho's communication style projected, Rodri walked away from talks with the most decorated club in football history, feeling uncertain about whether the manager who would be coaching him actually wanted him there. That single impression that one manager was less than completely convinced was enough. Barcelona sent the opposite signal. Flick called him personally. He outlined exactly how Rodri would fit into his system. He explained the specific tactical role he had designed. He told Rodri that Frenkie de Jong's injury had created a gap in Barcelona's midfield that only a player with Rodri's profile could fill. One manager called the World Cup's best player and told him exactly why he was irreplaceable. The other apparently did not do the same thing convincingly enough. And Rodri, who said before the World Cup that you cannot turn down the best clubs in the world, turned down Real Madrid. That tells you more about Mourinho's return to the Bernabeu than any press conference he has given. The deal itself happened at extraordinary speed once Rodri made his decision. He gave Barcelona the green light on August 6th. Within 24 hours, Manchester City, who had valued Rodri at 80 million euros and resisted any talk of a discount, dropped their price to 50 million. The reason is simple. City knew that if they refused Barcelona's offer, Rodri would run down his contract and leave as a free agent in June 2027. 50 million euros for the World Cup's best player, the Ballon d'Or winner, the man who played 8 matches without a substitution, is not a fee that reflects his market value. It reflects the negotiating position of a club with effectively no leverage. City's new manager Enzo Maresca had planned to rebuild around Rodri. Instead, Rodri spent the entire preseason in rehabilitation, never appeared at training, and conducted his entire transfer from a recovery facility while clubs negotiated his future by phone. Manchester City now have to replace the most important midfielder in world football. They have identified Ayoub Boadi from Lille as a long-term target, but there is no like-for-like replacement for what Rodri does. Not in this window, possibly not in any window. Now look at what this means for Real Madrid. Mourinho returned this summer as the manager tasked with restoring dominance after 2 difficult seasons. He has signed right-winger Yan Diomande and secured Vinicius Jr.'s contract extension until 2032. Those are meaningful moves, but losing Rodri to Barcelona, not to a Premier League club, not to a different league, but to the team they compete with directly for every La Liga title, is the worst possible outcome of any transfer window. And losing him not because of money, not because of geography, but because the player reportedly felt uncertain about the manager's commitment, is a specific kind of damage that is hard to walk back. The story will be referenced the first time Real Madrid drop points. It will be referenced the first time Mourinho's tactical decisions are questioned. It has established a narrative about his second chapter at the club before it has even started. The background to this story matters too. Rodri grew up in Spanish football outside the Real Madrid ecosystem. He played for Atletico Madrid, a club whose rivalry with Real is not just sporting, but personal and deeply felt. When Manchester City signed him from Atletico in 2019, he was already a player who had spent his formative years on the other side of Madrid's divide. Spanish pundit Gaisca Mendieta said it months before any of this happened. When Rodri does leave City, I could see it being Barcelona. There is a big connection there. It would be hard for him to join Real Madrid. The signs existed. The relationship with Flick and with Spain teammates at Barcelona gave the move a logic that money alone could not override. Real Madrid made the biggest offer they could. They deployed their president and their manager. They put everything on the table, and they lost to a phone call, a tactical conversation, and a player who at some level always knew where he wanted to end up. The transfer window closes on August 31st. What Real Madrid do in the next 3 weeks to address the gap left by Rodri's absence will define whether Mourinho's return is a statement of intent or a salvage operation. Barcelona, meanwhile, have signed the World Cup's best player for 50 million euros, less than clubs paid for average midfielders 2 summers ago, and given Hansi Flick the deepest midfield in European football ahead of the Champions League. The team that won the World Cup final have just signed the man who controlled every minute of that run. Whatever happens in La Liga this season, it starts with Barcelona winning the most important transfer negotiation of the summer. Not with money, with a phone call. Subscribe. Rodri joins Barcelona on August 12th, and this channel covers every development as the new season begins.